back.
We're back. Oh,
Yeah.
are we recording?
Yeah, we're recording.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what up, what up? I'm just going to rebrand as a wigger.
Smart.
Untouchable.
Is this a free one?
I think so.
Cool.
Do I have to scrub that?
No, we've been
dropping.
on the right side of
W.
history as far as
the
saying
white side of history.
wigger goes. Wow.
Yeah.
It says Asian Americana in a can.
I know, disgusting.
Where did you get this?
Stop Asian hate in a can. At Whole Foods. It's called Lunar. And
Is it
it's
good?
Asian inspired hard seltzer. It's with flavors like lychee, yuzu, plum, and passion fruit. Yeah, it's fine. It's mild.
You drink this garbage?
I mean, I wasn't desperate. I didn't have time to stop for wine. So I dumped a bunch of hard seltzers into my bag.
It's nice.
It's okay.
It's not bad.
It's not bad.
I'm breaking my 4-day sobriety streak since Lent has started. And
How's that going?
good. I mean, I gave up drinking. I'm gonna give up smoking weed just because I haven't been smoking that much weed already, and I think I can do it.
Right.
But that'll be. I don't think I've gone 40 days without smoking weed.
Damn. What?
Dude,
How often do you smoke weed?
Dude, I smoke weed like a lot.
Like how often? Like more than you play chess?
Not every day. No. Well, chess has been good because I don't want to play chess when I smoke weed.
Right.
So it gives me
They're
something
kind of mutually
something
exclusive.
to do that's not.
I'm
smoking
giving
weed.
up chess for Lent.
Definitely not. Yeah, I mean, there's times where I like smoke weed every day. Yep.
Damn.
I know. And they say it's non-addictive.
So you're like Jim Brewer and half baked.
You could say that, yeah. Well, when Dr. Drew came on and he was talking about weed addiction, and he said,
I have that.
I was like, No, well, he said the defining characteristic of weed addicts is that they love it. Like the first time they smoke weed, they absolutely love it.
Yeah, whereas it's more of a learning curve for other people. It takes like 2-3 times for most people to get high.
And some people, I think, who like smoked weed when they were teenagers, by the time they're in their like adulthood, report that it gives them anxiety and they like stop smoking weed. But I didn't really start smoking weed until college.
Right.
And I was like, this is so sick. I like loved it.
What's there to do at a woman's school other than read Nietzsche and
blaze,
smoke weed? This stuff smells like rubbing alcohol. It really does. I'm like getting high on hard seltzer.
It's basically a white claw.
Yeah.
And it's made from corn
It's
sugar.
an Asian claw. A yellow claw.
Fun fact, yuzu is rich in antioxidants, which can prevent cancer and heart disease.
There ain't no antioxidants in this hard seltzer.
This is so weird. Okay. We actively support AAPI causes because we didn't get here by ourselves. What's that supposed to mean?
I don't know. Didn't you get here by yourselves? Isn't it
Aren't you a model minority?
a testament to your strength and industriousness that you definitely got here by yourself?
Yeah, and it's ostensibly kind of a Japanese.
It's all over the place. It has all the Asian influences.
Yuzu, that's Japanese.
Yeah, there's kind of like a soulless K-pop aesthetic layered over like the Japanese woodcut stamp.
Yeah.
Of like a kawaii bunny.
All right.
And there's probably some Chinese stuff somewhere. Dude, I've been so fucked up because everywhere I turn, I've like scrolling the timeline and it's like videos of like Chinese people doing weird shit to weird animals.
Oh, the big salamander.
Yeah.
They eat a lot of weird stuff over there.
Yeah, they sure do. The funniest tweet ever, if aliens ever came to Earth, Chinese people would pan fry them with vegetables.
Was this a pangolin flavored seltzer?
They should do that.
Was this bat?
Komodo dragon
that's
flavored hard seltzer for your taste buds.
That's how COVID started.
From hard seltzer.
Yeah, from mixing dragon jade essence.
But it feels like some kind of weird psyop because white people be doing unfathomably cruel shit to animals too.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
There's a little bit of a...
Well, the factory farms, you know.
Yeah.
You can make, you know.
But I don't know if this is
It's all
just like the
bad.
algorithm boosting the shit onto my timeline because it knows that I'm troubled and turbulent, and so it's God is testing me with like a weird like animal cruelty porn.
Yeah, it's designed. It's not, the internet is not designed to make you feel good, for sure.
No, definitely not.
Though notably, I have not given up posting because I feel.
Oh yeah, that's a thing you could do hypothetically, is give up posting.
Niccolo
for
left Twitter for Lent.
He did.
Mm-hmm.
Like this time around?
Yeah, yeah.
Did he now?
So he's not going to be around to counter signal us, and now we can counter signal him all we want.
He is gay.
Anna. I'm trying to do my Nicola version.
It's good.
Here's the plan. We're going to go down to the glory hole. Okay, I'm going to suck the dick. Tears going to come out of my eyes. That's it. Then we hit the bathhouse.
But he's allowed
Have a couple
to...
espresso.
He would drink espresso.
When we were in Croatia, he was like
Just
getting me
pounding
wasted
espressos.
and then being like, and have an espresso.
Yeah.
And it was
That's
stumbling
that's
around like a cannoli on my face.
Mediterranean way.
Mm-hmm.
You get gang raped by drug dealers and they're like, here, have an espresso. All better. Just putting you on this organ trafficking buzz. Hey girl, have an espresso.
But I didn't give up posting because I think God wants me to post, but I've been more mindful of my post. I'm not being mean.
Okay.
You won't see me lashing out.
You're never that mean.
I'm not. I saw a video today of a on Instagram of a woman doing
God, we're fucking losers.
I know, dude.
We'll get into this. I have a whole spiel pertaining to the Longhouse. Anyway, go on. You want an Instagram?
I saw an Instagram video of an adult woman doing ballet, and the caption was something like, "They say you can't start point at 24 or something," and she was not particularly good at ballet, nor did she have a ballerina body aesthetic.
She was fat.
And I was like, don't say anything.
Do you post mean comments on Instagram?
I felt an impulse to, and I was like, Lord have mercy, you know.
Good for you, Dasha.
Not today, Satan. We're sanctifying. It's giving repent. It's giving I'm so sorry.
No, are you though?
Yeah.
You're sorry.
I have sorrow for my sins.
You're sorry for the times that you've lashed out and been a bitch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
You don't derive pleasure, enjoyment from it.
No, and I love mercy. Even though I seem to choose war every day. Secretly, I'm also obsessed with mercy. It's a duality.
True. Well, you have to... Well, speaking of duality, I think that's what bothers people about the Chinese culinary habits videos. Mm-hmm. Because there's like a really extreme polarity between their worship of pathologically cute animals. Like
right.
Dogs that they like groom to look like bunnies and pandas and lions. And
That's
then
more like a Japanese trait to me.
they're like... Chinese have this too, I think. It's like a trickle down effect. I don't know. And then also like their extreme and arbitrary cruelty to weird random animals that you've never heard of.
Like a giant salamander.
Yeah. I didn't even know that was an animal that existed in the world.
I saw one at the Natural History Museum in San Francisco once when I was on mushrooms.
How did it make you feel?
How did this make you feel? Made me feel scared, dude. I don't like that big
Some things
lizard.
should stay small.
Yeah.
Scale is important.
Mm-hmm.
Some things just shouldn't be big.
So I'm glad they skinned that thing and made it.
Made like a tofu like soup.
Blood soup. So the docket.
Oh yeah. Can I hit your vape?
Oh yeah, of course. I just put a fresh pod in.
Mooch off of your. I have to secure a vape. As
I have
said.
my. Did you quit smoking?
I haven't smoked in a long time,
Smells
baby.
like
I actually did
cig-
smoke a couple cigarettes on your birthday, but
Yeah, smells like cigs in here.
I know. Well, it's permanently going to smell like cigs in here.
I have this. I have my Elf bar too. I got sick of
Well, I
it.
might hit that. Cool. I like your
My
Prada Linea Rosa duffel bag.
Yeah. How'd you know?
Because I saw the front.
Oh,
earlier. Who are
yeah.
Tim and Alice?
No clue.
Where'd you get
It's
it?
cool.
It's
I
sick.
got it on the Real. It's
Oh.
been in my like obsessions for a long time, and I kept waiting for them. It was weirdly too expensive. But I like how it's kind of small for a duffel.
Right.
Because when I get the big duffel, I fill it up with all sorts of crap and then carry
like
that
jangly garbage that you don't need.
Yeah,
And
like
it has kind of
carry
like
4 books around. Like
Soviet poverty aesthetic.
yeah, it's a nice gray color. Yeah, this is my new tote bag.
Sick.
It's got tampons, jewel pods, well, you know, tretinoin.
Our lives are lived through like little pods. Like you have a tampon, you have like a little lipstick,
Mm-hmm.
you have a jewel pod. Everything is sort of small and cylindrical shaped.
Yeah. Like the Longhouse,
Mhm.
except the Longhouse is long and big.
Hey, guess what?
Huh?
I actually live in a long house. Like literally, my house is long.
Yeah.
My bedroom is long and narrow. My apartment is long and narrow.
I live in a small house that's very poorly designed, which is its own kind of
My house is shaped
suffocating
like Chris
trap.
Brown's dick. It is long and thin.
It's got a nice length, your apartment.
It's fine. It's not that bad. It's no other apartments on the floor, which is cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Longhouse.
Longhouse back in the news. First Things published a piece by Lomax. What's his name?
Lomax.
So-
My Lomax Gallery. It's Alex Shulin. That's his alt.
Oh, right. Oh, I got them
Yeah.
confused. Right. Lomaz.
Yeah.
Right. You can't be a non and expect me to remember all your gay little handles.
I thought these guys
you
were
know?
supposed to be white nationals. So why they sound Mexican? El Señor Lomas. I guess the only white nationalists left these days are like Mexican and Guyanese guys.
Right. Puerto Ricans.
Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Latinx. Yeah, he wrote an article called "What is the Longhouse?"
Yeah. For those unacquainted.
describing and summarizing the features of the Longhouse and
Yeah.
its role as a metaphor for contemporary social organization.
Right. And its insidious influence through the feminization. All right, here, we're going to tell you guys. We kind of talked about the Longhouse already.
We have, yeah.
We kind of talk about it all the time.
Yeah. I mean, it's an apt and pertinent metaphor.
It sure is. I guess we'll talk about the Roald Dahl stuff. But
Yeah.
the safetyism being one of the dominant features of the Longhouse.
Yeah. So here's a quote from the Lomez piece on the Longhouse.
Lomez.
Even for those of us who use it, the Longhouse evades easy summary. Ambivalent to its core, the term is at once politically earnest and the punchline to an elaborate in-joke. Its definition must remain elastic, lest it lose its power to lampoon the vast constellation of social forces it reviles. It refers at once to our increasingly degraded mode of technocratic governance, but also to wokeness, to the progressive, liberal, and secular values that pervade all major institutions. More fundamentally, the Longhouse is a metonym for the disequilibrium affecting contemporary social imaginary.
Mm-hmm.
Word salad.
Metonym.
Yeah, he certainly made defining the Longhouse harder for himself. But it seems like the Longhouse is just like a convenient and compact way of summarizing my line that men built civilization so women could administer its decline.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he gets into the numbers.
Yeah. Oh, we should read some of the stats because they are actually interesting and important. Kind of shocking.
Women's overwhelming presence in the academy as well as the workforce, particularly in HR departments. He said, as of 2022, women held 52% of professional managerial roles in the U.S. Women earn more than 57% of bachelor degrees, 61% of master's degrees, and 54% of doctoral degrees. And because they are overrepresented in professions such as human resource management, 73%, and compliance officers, 57%. The word compliance officer gives me chills.
I know.
What the fuck is that?
It makes me think of like Nurse Ratched.
What is that?
I think it's an officer that makes you comply.
I hate that.
It's some withered old crone with dried up tits on the job who tells you how you should behave.
The Longhouse is when some bitch be coming around telling you how to act. Saying don't smoke in here, don't stand over here, but ma'am, you can't take your shoes off at the botanical garden.
You can't have sex in the photocopy room. You can't saw a glory hole.
They want to limit your vitality. They want to oppress you. They have an outsized influence on professional culture, which itself has an outsized influence on American culture more generally.
I kind of feel like it's less important what these fake email and compliance jobs women have do than what they are, which is like literally just a jobs program for people who are otherwise unemployable. Like you have to invent new reasons for people to have jobs and collect an income. It's like an extra layer.
Shouldn't these mans be working?
They're like working in the mailroom and writing racist screeds.
Why aren't these men going to work?
And then he gets into some of the nitty gritty. The historical Longhouse is a large communal hall serving as the social focal point for many cultures and peoples throughout the world that were typically more sedentary and agrarian. In online discourse, this historical function gets generalized to contemporary patterns of social organization, in particular the exchange of privacy and its attendant autonomy for the modest comforts and security of collective living. The most important feature of the Longhouse and why it makes such a resonant and controversial symbol of our current circumstances is the ubiquitous role of the den mother. More than anything, the Longhouse refers to the remarkable overcorrection of the last two generations towards social norms centering feminine needs and feminine methods for controlling, directing, and modeling behavior.
Mm-hmm.
I want to clarify here that the Longhouse is not a matriarchy.
No.
I noticed that Lomez was arguing with some schizo poster who basically said, dude, it's a matriarchy, so why not use like the simplest, most standardized form instead of coming up with like gay and self-satisfied metaphors?
Well, doesn't Bap sort of make the distinction in his book about the real Longhouse is like the tyranny of the mother-in-law?
Right.
Which isn't really like
the mother,
a matriarchy per se.
Yeah, matriarchy implies rule by powerful matrons, not neurotic crones and spinsters. Also, moreover, matriarchy implies like patriarchy, the existence of a hierarchy, which our contemporary social organization aspires to a flattening of hierarchy and a non-hierarchical society, though of course hierarchies do inevitably persist. And it aspires to this in the name of like equity, but really in order to diffuse responsibility and liability.
Well, hence like a sort of boundarylessness of the longhouse and the encroachment on one's personal liberties.
Right. And crucially, when your personal liberties are encroached upon and your person or your property is violated, you have nowhere to turn because no one wants to be responsible.
Right.
Like suddenly there's no overt hierarchical structure because we've like done away with the patriarchy, which is bad and oppressive. Also, another thing that Bap pointed out is that this Longhouse society is not something that materialized with the triumph of communism or feminism. It's not necessarily a contemporary arrangement. It's the rule, not the exception, that has existed throughout history. Mm-hmm. I think he makes this point in Bronze Age Mindset.
Well, I mean, even in patriarchies, I feel like women have found circuitous routes to power through the kind of mechanisms that Lomas describes, of like ostracization and gossip and stuff, and like have wielded their feminine power even in, you give them you give these broads an inch, and they'll take a freaking mile long longhouse.
Bap basically pointed out that many people lose sight of the fact that this kind of collectivist, safetyist social organization is not a contemporary development associated with like communism and feminism, but really the rule rather than the exception throughout history, which, was a point that stuck out to me. I think a more operative term would be gynocracy, but I
like gynocracy, yeah.
Because it implies something childless and technocratic, which I think encapsulates the society we live in. Antinatalist and technocratic.
But I like the longhouse as a manifestation of a space.
Well, gynocracy is not exactly catchy or charismatic. The reason people have been like wringing their brains trying to figure out why longhouse works as a metaphor, and it's like, well, duh, because it's hilarious and retarded. Because you're comparing a progressive and technocratic society to a thatch hut run by medieval wenches. It's so absurd on its face that it actually does that like Russian literary thing of making strange the mundane. Mm-hmm. And, things that are hilarious and retarded have a special way of being more accurate than
true.
They're too real.
Exactly.
That's all it is. That's the special magic. Well, we can get into some of the contemporary features of gynocracy that he points out. He says, nowhere is this more apparent than in the realm of free speech and the tenor of our public discourse, where consensus and the prohibition on offense and harm take precedence over the truth. We are expected to indulge with theatrical zealotry the preferences, however bizarre, of a never-ending scroll of victim groups whose pathologies are above criticism. Further, these speech norms are enforced through punitive measures typical of female-dominated groups: social isolation, reputational harm, indirect and hidden force, i.e. cancel culture. Mm-hmm. And, crucially says that the avatar of the longhouse need not be female. It could just as well be male.
Yeah.
Which is well taken. But if I may offer, Lomas, I love you, baby. I promise to shill the Passage Prize. Amazing book.
Just found out who you are.
Very weighty.
Win on the Passage Prize website.
It's good.
Love what's going on. The book costs $75, which is kind of like a Red Scare merch style price point.
I paid way more for that shit.
You got the hardcover?
I got the hardcover as an
Where's
act of
it at?
charity. Let me find it actually, because we can read some poetry
Yeah,
for the
that'd be
fellas.
fun. That'd be fun for the boys.
I've never. This feels like doing stand up for an audience of
Hello,
one.
Anna's standing. She's moving her framed Slayer poster aside
Where is my pass? Oh, here.
to find her. Oh,
Yeah.
how much was that? Like $400?
Look at this passage. $400.
Wait, for real?
$420. Maybe.
You paid $400 for this
Yeah,
book?
because I gotta support my right wing racist anons.
Of course, it's a gorgeous book.
It's a nice book. Passage Prize, Volume 1, Exit from the Longhouse.
Yes. Ooh,
Literature,
I love,
nonfiction, poetry.
I love this.
Marbled.
Marbling.
Inner, what do you call this? The inner gate or something? I don't know.
Oh, the dedication. For and on, we are going to win. That's inspiring.
For Anna and Dasha.
For Anna and
For being
Dasha.
our biggest
For
supporters.
being the biggest pick-me's. What do we got here? We got, oh yeah. We got poetry. We got Curtis Yarvin coming through. Okay. Yeah, it's nice.
It's nice, right?
I'd slap this down on my coffee table, right in the middle of my long house.
It's like
I like that Asylum mag too that you participated in. I thought that
Asylum
looked
mag
nice.
was cute.
Maybe I'll honestly I might write a little poem.
Do it. Wait, I have a business proposition for you that I will bring up after we're done podding, so we don't have to like jinx it.
Okay.
But
I will not eat the bug.
But yeah, it's nice. It's like a really well done, beautifully designed high school yearbook.
Absolutely.
It's giving yearbook.
It's giving yearbook, and
It's giving racist yearbook.
I'd love to break out my gel pen and write a sweet, sweet note to my favorite boys.
Some of the art is low key pretty good,
Yeah.
and some of the writing too.
I'm sure. I mean, there's been, a legacy of
Samizdat.
Of
Looks
dis-
like very
of-
Giorgio Di Chirico.
Yeah.
I'm dying for Bap to come on the pod because I really want to ask him about
He's ready.
Di Chirico.
Uh-huh.
Who's his favorite artist?
Yeah.
Which is a wild card.
Because it's so modern.
No, Di Chirico's talented, but he's kind of like a missed opportunity. Like you can almost see him attaining his genius, but he never quite reaches it.
Interesting.
I mean, I love Di Chirico. I'm not like a hater.
Yeah.
I reserve my hatred for Rembrandt and Renoir, the two most overrated art. The three R's: Rubens, Rembrandt, Renoir. Sorry, Leland.
Sorry, Leland, who I was at the Met with the other day. He was telling me Renoir was his favorite artist, and I was looking at a lot of these paintings, and I was kind of like, twee. Not really doing it for me. But I love like Vuillard and Bernard.
Me too.
And, like,
me
the
too,
Fauves,
Dasha.
like that.
Nabi.
Yeah, I
Wait,
like.
do you know that my mom is
the Fauvists? I like the 19th century, like right before.
Me too.
And I like modern art too.
That's good. My mom is a high level, state of the art Nabi copyist.
Interesting.
Those are her favorite artists too, and she used to drag me to museums and make me
Oh.
look at their stuff.
Well, they're quite cool.
I love especially like Bernard's bizarre bath paintings of his depressed wife,
Yeah.
who was apparently a real piece of work, a real BPD art. I'm serious.
Many such cases.
No, this is a cute book. I like when people get together and
It's so
and
nice.
it's creative.
Yeah.
And nice.
I love being
There's
creative.
some like woodcuts.
Nothing like being creative with my friends.
No, Di Chirico has always been disappointing to me because I know what he's getting at, which is that mystical and uncanny Italianate style that all Italian artists have.
Right.
But he never quite nails it for me.
His paintings make me feel like they give me this kind of bad feeling of,
well, yeah, I think they're supposed to.
They're meant to, right? They're melancholic, but specifically they really remind me of when I would go to Hoover Dam. They used to take me on field trips to Hoover Dam as a child, and I was very like overwhelmed and upset by the like architecture and the machinery and the like and just the it gave it, I intuited even as a kid that this place like shouldn't exist.
The dam,
that not just the dam but like the water, like Las Vegas, like, you know, that this
the
dam,
fake irrigation,
this dam was sort of responsible for
ruining many lives,
this life that was sort of
but wasn't the dam also like a jobs program because it was like a Depression era like work relief type situation?
Yeah.
And it's beautifully done and very eerie and uncanny.
It's very eerie, and when you're there it doesn't I don't know.
I bought the
I like a
Hoover Dam t-shirt when I was at the dam this summer.
When did you go to the dam?
When we were in Vegas. We took a detour to the dam. Yeah.
Maybe I should revisit because I just have really bad childhood memories.
You have a different, like, you saw it as a child for the first time. I saw it as an adult for the first time. It's like a very different vantage point.
As this like pride and joy of Clark County, or it's not even in Clark County, I don't think, but yeah, this is a nice.
Anyway, pick up the Passage Prize. I don't know what the URL is.
Hardcover's sold out.
You can have my hardcover, honestly. Don't really need it anymore.
I'll sign it for you in my metallic Sharpie
No, I
pen.
love the Passage Prize. So now that I've said something nice about Lomez and the Passage Prize, as I promised to on Twitter,
I'm gonna shill for another right-wing publisher in a bit. So go off.
I have a couple of small critiques because he's been getting a lot of bad faith critiques. Immediately after this article came out, he was just like pummeled with a series of bad faith critiques.
Well, this was in part due to I don't want the yuzu, I want the lychee.
Yeah, I'll take the yuzu. I don't care. Dude, I'm an alcoholic.
The fact that it was published in First Things, I think set
off a firestorm of controversy.
And caused a lot of like hand wringing about supposedly like Nietzschean ideas being espoused in a Christian publication.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I have a whole polemic about this, but before I say that, Lomez, baby, I love you. You're a great writer. Your article in Asylum and Conspiracy Theories was one of the most brilliant things I've ever read. This one kind of took the wind out of the wings of the Longhouse.
Okay.
I
changed my mind. I don't like the lychee.
Okay.
I want the yuzu.
I think it could have been snappier and funnier is all I'm saying. Otherwise, good article. That's a cosmetic, superficial critique, not that important. But anyway, so it really unleashed this torrent of cope from all the usual suspects, the DC integralist types and the rural tradcath types. Patrick Deneen, who's one of the big kahunas of that crowd, said,
no clue.
Disappointed doesn't quite capture my response to First Things, publishing a Nietzsche-lite article by a Twitter anon. The justified opposition to wokeism increasingly dominating the mainstream right is in danger of descending into very dark places. Translation, I'm mad they published an anon. Mm-hmm. Who gets more play than me?
There was actually a guy from my church wrote to me on Signal this weekend to tell me he was at apparently there was like a Catholic conference called New York Encounter that had a Nietzsche exhibit that we were featured in.
What?
As the prominent Nietzschean intellectuals of our day.
Like you and me?
Yeah.
Boop. I haven't even read Nietzsche.
You haven't even read him. He said there was like a video of me like talking on Thaddeus Russell's podcast and God knows what. And then there was like some quotes from you. I don't know.
I'm just spiritually
I'm just saying,
I came to these ideas myself. I didn't have to read
Well,
Nietzsche.
all knowledge is knowledge
It's a fat circle.
It's a fat circle, and is knowledge of something prior, or
Yeah.
what's that?
I just realized at an early age that I'd rather be a master than a slave. Sorry.
Well,
I know I've always just hated fake compassion and empathy, because I could clock it from a mile away, and it was really disgusting and coercive. And what made it more disgusting and coercive is, of course, that it's like unfalsifiable, which is a word I like to use. But you can't prove that these people are evil and disgusting. And the more that you try to prove it, the more mean and contemptuous you sound.
right.
When they're really like the creepy tradcath puppet masters in the shadows.
They really are the worst.
But of course,
They've got it all wrong.
The integralists and the tradcaths that are melting down about this because they've like caught wind of the Longhouse and have like some faint revelation that they themselves are the male like ambassadors, exponents of the Longhouse.
Mm-hmm.
They're the allies.
Yeah.
And
they're the compliance officers.
yeah, and they're of course
of
all
the
of their
real
defense
Christianity
mechanisms are like marshaled against recognizing this point, because it would be like ruinous to their egos.
Epic cope.
Yeah, and it's like their whole thing is like, it's very important that you view my lifestyle as a moral choice and not a giant cope.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm married to a land monster and living in the woods.
All these attractive people are being so mean to me because I'm so virtuous.
But yeah, I would just like to point out also one other thing. Whenever you see a spate of takes problematizing Nietzsche, it has nothing to do with Nietzsche or his writings, because the sad reality is that no one is really interested in philosophy in this day and age, let alone these take peddlers. Nietzsche is code for BAP. They are airing out some petty...
Nietzsche light, yeah. Warmed over Nietzsche.
They are airing out some petty grievances in the guise of intellectual inquiry. Mm-hmm. That's all it is. That's not about Nietzsche at all. Well, he doesn't really figure into this.
I mean...
He does in the most kind of abstract, loose academic way, but really they're just counter-signaling BAP.
Well, who draws from Nietzsche very much?
Yeah, but also in counter-signaling BAP, they've run out of material, so they've now started to counter-signal like BAP-adjacent personalities, like quote Lomez and quote raw egg nationalist.
Mm-hmm. Well, because they espouse a message of strength.
Well, of male liberation.
Yeah, but, grounded in a Nietzschean foundation.
And personal responsibility.
Will to power.
Right.
Which, on its face, obviously, is very unchristian, I guess. If it hadn't been published in First Things, I'm sure there still would have been, like, people who were upset, but the fact that it was seemingly sanctioned by like a Christian publication, I think is what people were really upset about.
Or so they claim.
I don't buy that anyone's, truly upset. But I think, Nietzsche was a prophet, and that he, even in the late 19th century, to say nothing of today, when the situation is far, far worse, like Christianity itself had already been reduced basically to like niceties, know. And so his critique of Christianity is extremely scathing. But I think, and maybe this was a point that was made at this Catholic conference that I wasn't invited to. That one's gross. I know. Gross. I'm sorry.
You drank this.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You want to share the yuzu?
Can I just try it?
Yeah.
I don't need to have it.
Yeah.
I'll just have a sip. Yeah, this one's cool. All right, I'll drink the lychee. I'm really okay with drinking the most disgusting alcohol ever.
Right.
I don't care.
I also think people make efforts to kind of reconcile Nietzschean thought with with Christianity, which I don't think needs to be done. I think Nietzsche does Christians actually a favor by pointing out that there is enmity and contradiction between Christianity and the world, that it is specifically, you know, if you were of the world would love its own, is like a principle of Christianity.
Right.
And that what modern kind of like corrupted Christianity does is try to reconcile it in like in an earthly way and make it about being nice, palatable, nice, which is
egalitarian,
which isn't really the to me isn't really the point.
I'm going to read a tweet by my new buddy, Kate. Faith has probably always felt like a self-conscious and compensatory exercise. The most sincere believers are sensitive to this fact, while the majority of us sublimate doubt in a caricatured and grotesque performance of faith. I think she's right. Like any person who's a sincere believer is conscious and aware of the fact that there will come times when you are riddled with doubt, when you find it hard to suspend disbelief. That's sort of baked into the cake of faith if you're an honest actor.
I mean, some of the best saints, like Saint Teresa of Lisieux, Saint John of the Cross, have famously gone through dark nights of the soul. Right. That is like a fundamental part of Christian thought. It contains many contradictions, much like Nietzsche does, who I obviously am a fan of. But since I have, since I quit drinking for 4 days, I become a genius, and I read another book.
Awesome, nice. Which one?
I read a really skinny book,
Nietzsche and Christianity
by Maud Peter, who was a nun. It's published by Rogue Scholar Press. You should all get it. I got it when they released it, obviously, because it's two interests of mine. It's 4 or 5 like essays of hers dealing with Nietzsche's critique of Christianity, which I think has to be grappled with,
right?
And that any like real Christian would, I don't know. I feel like I've consolidated my interest with Nietzsche with my Catholicism just by using the power of my mind.
Any real Christian would acknowledge that there are certain things that are like irreducible and irreconcilable,
like Christianity and the world. I mean, Nietzsche's very clear about this. He says,
and they would cede control to the will of God.
Yes,
and stop trying to insert like a square peg into a round hole.
We are simply on earth to do his will, not ours, of which Nietzsche was a part. And well, this is from one of Maud Peter's essays about Nietzsche specifically as like an anti-feminist. I'm going to read. Even in these days of female emancipation, the old spirit of caprice and coquetry. Coquetry?
Yeah.
We know what that means. Seems as much.
Coquettishness.
Yes, coquettishness of being like flirty and evasive and stupid, the way women are, seems as much alive as ever. And what is coquetry but a confession of weakness? With the avowed intention of making that weakness not a shame, but a claim. And a claim not simply for the help, which all may need at times, but a claim to have weakness qua weakness recognized as a right and a privilege, not as a loss and a sickness. It is thus that woman often leads man in virtue of her very inferiority, not in virtue of that particular strength in which she is actually his superior and entitled to a definite influence. Such women might learn much from Nietzsche's scathing reproaches, might learn that weakness in itself can never be right matter for a boast, nor right means of influence. Here's the good part. We should seek those stronger than ourselves in order to be cured of our infirmities, not in order to make them servants of our misery. Longhouse.
That's very good.
Isn't that fire?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. A woman wrote this?
A woman wrote this.
Go off, girl.
Yeah.
Girl.
Mm-hmm. It's a very good book. I would really recommend supporting another.
And they say women are not capable of abstract thought.
They say. So they say. But in Christianity, much like in Nietzsche, there is much contradiction and irony. And I think
there are certain
that there are things to be
irreconcilable
gained from
differences.
taking his thought seriously, even as a Christian.
Right. Ideally, if you're honest with yourself and you approach Nietzsche in an open-minded way as a Christian, this should sharpen and strengthen your Christianity.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I
don't know. I'm drinking a plum hard seltzer and smoking Dasha's Malibu Elf-Bar vape, so...
There's another book that I will recommend called
The Passage Prize.
Called The Passage Prize. Costs $400. No, there's a French Catholic novelist named Francois Mauriac, who I enjoy very much, who wrote a book called A Kiss for the Leper. That's in it. The protagonist, who is this kind of like bug man of his day, he's like in this like total Chad's house, and he like stumbles upon a Nietzsche book and he reads like a passage, and it like disturbs him really deeply, and then things unfold in the novel that are ironic and that teach us that sometimes, you know, the redeemed and the redeemers are not who we expect. Mauriac also wrote a book called The Anguish and Joy of Christian Life, which is about being horny, that I like very, very much.
The role of Nietzsche in Christianity is much like the role of horniness in Christianity.
You have something to be dealt with.
Something to be swept under the rug by pretending not to be gay with your fat wife. And for learning disabilities children. This is my issue with all of these trad cats on the internet. Virtually all of whom are converts, by the way.
Yes.
Which is insane.
Which is crazy.
I happen to agree with Jack Mason on this. You really can't convert to anything. You should just accept the religion you were born into. That's my hot take.
I think it's
that sounds kind of transphobic if you extrapolate it far enough, but you know what I'm saying.
I think it's, well, I'm biased obviously, but frankly I think it's bizarre to convert to something that isn't Catholicism, which I think is kind of the only real religion, which is why it was so prominent and powerful in the early days of history.
I think
which is
conversion was probably more possible in the early days.
If you were a pagan.
Yeah, before the postmodern era in which everything becomes a self-conscious LARP, even if you believe that you believe.
I mean,
I'm less freaked out by people
who
of these people believe for cynical reasons than people who actually believe that they believe.
Well, I think it's like much like right-wing Twitter, it's like a bit of like a social club for people. It's a way of them. It's like foster community
and connection. Yeah,
it
that
really,
I'm sympathetic
it really is
to. Yeah,
but that really is like the Nietzschean, you know, critique of the herd. You know, and I think that the
unheard,
the real, I don't know, is I know everyone thinks that's annoying when I talk about my Christianity, but I go to church and and when, now that it's Lent, right, we're doing like the liturgy of pre-sanctified gifts where we do these different prayers, and in those prayers we literally say, if a just man strikes you, that is kindness.
Wait, what does that mean?
Like,
if a just man strikes you, like physically hits you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or strikes you down in somewhere that like there is like justice is not.
If a just man rapes you.
If a just man rapes you, that is
People are,
But no, but it's not just about a kind of like kind. It's not about a banal nicety. Like sometimes sometimes kindness is a strike. Jesus Christ himself said, I did not come to bring peace. I came to bring the sword, you know?
right. But people are annoyed when you talk about Christianity because they're like, "Ma, it's hypocritical. She's a party
She's
girl.
a slut,
She
blah, blah."
does drugs. Her body count, whatever." Because again, bobbing for hypocrisy like a truffle swine is the lowest form of discourse. People love to point out how you're a hypocrite or I'm a hypocrite. Guess what? We're all hypocrites.
Guess what? I'm a genius that can hold two different ideas in my head at the same time.
The annoying thing, the thing that I object to with tradcasts on the internet who are far worse is that they defile and denigrate the name of religion in service of their petty grievances and political policies that they want to promote. They're much more evil. They're not merely hypocrites.
I mean, we're not even going to get into
They have a harmful agenda.
Yeah. And they need to, you know, look at the Vatican.
What about it?
The Pope's not real, blah, blah. You know, like why don't you deal with the problems within your church first? And the heresies.
Well, it's not even their church because they're all fucking converts.
Well, it is. You can
I
convert
know, I'm
to
being a bitch, but isn't it? But
Catholicism.
isn't it curious and questionable how every single one of these people happens to be a convert? I don't know anything about this topic. I'm probably unqualified to speak on it, but it's a major red flag.
A lot of them are prods too.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like, why is every person who's like counter signaling quote Nietzscheite on the internet mysteriously a Catholic convert? I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I would say this. I don't think that there's necessarily a coordinated campaign against BAP.
You don't think Joyce Carol Oates is trying to take him down?
I just think that they share their petty grievances and also they share a lack of journalistic integrity and imagination. So it starts to look coordinated. It starts to look like collusion.
Well, because there's nothing else interesting.
Right.
It's just the most interesting thing that they know will get clicks.
Traction, yeah.
Traction primarily also from BAP's supporters.
Yeah, and they're, you know, it's true that they're like pro-immigration, trad-cath, crypto-leftists, whatever, and they're diametrically opposed to the politics espoused by this new right. But I think that even that is like incidental to the fact that A, they're just jealous that he's a popular and funny guy that commands loyalty from men and adoration from women. And B, they know it'll harness clicks.
Yeah.
It's very simple.
To me, it's that
there's no like
main
secret ulterior conspiracy to get more quote third world immigrants into this country. I mean, there is, but not on this level.
I mean, the way people would counter signal us in the early to mid days of the pod, and even still today, think the mid we're in the mid there, but in the salad days, you know, I feel like there was so many like that famous Jezebel hit piece that we love so much.
Yeah.
It was just like that. It was just something to talk about, that there was someone that was saying anything like dissenting.
That's that's the sad and pathetic reality. Again, you're not the target, you're the collateral. Anything else is incidental. And the thing is, though, everybody is secretly flattered by the attention. Everybody secretly enjoys reading about themselves and being the subject of rumors and speculation. It makes you feel important and dangerous. Even somebody like BAP is not immune to this mere mortal human impulse. And so, of course, this like take economy persists.
Yes.
And more it starts to like lose sight of reality and becomes more and more divorced from like actual relevant cultural, social, philosophical phenomenon, becomes entirely self-referential. And it's no one's fault, but we're all guilty of indulging in it. I mean, we're literally summarizing an article by quote Lomez and quote First Things about the quote Longhouse. But it starts to look like
yeah,
one of those ant mill death spirals. It does, like when a group of ants gets separated from the rest of the colony and starts circling itself until they all die of like fatigue and dehydration.
Well, to my fellow, I want to make an non-traditional Catholic happen. Like I'm like actually a non-traditional Catholic, and that I'm doing my own thing.
Yeah. Much like Andy Warhol.
Yes.
You're queer and probably Polish.
I'm queering
Catholicism.
Queering
Nietzsche.
But my message to these so-called trad Caths who chimp out about Nietzschean propaganda being perpetuated is to read, honestly, like, read first, because no one fucking reads Nietzsche.
Nobody reads.
There's like 4 people who read Nietzsche. I
mean, nobody reads, period.
No one reads, period. No one knows how to read.
Nietzsche's asking too much. What is he hiding under that big bushy mustache?
He's very readable. And you would
love him.
I
know. I would love him. I know. He deals in aphorisms, which are practically tweets.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's why people on Twitter love Nietzsche. Because it's like he's like the original tweeter.
And he's a
the
troll.
Original poster.
He's a troll, and he is provoking, is provocative, and all of this. But Francois Mauriac, as like I said in Kiss from the Leper, the sort of ironic triumph of the Redeemer is also summarized by another great Catholic, Morrissey, which is able to consolidate Nietzschean ideas by like shifting where strength and power is found. And like Morrissey says, okay, it takes strength to be gentle and kind.
It does.
It really does. And the most chatted thing you can do is lay your life down for someone you love.
That's true.
And that's what Jesus did. And God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son. Honestly, I think this is I've always found that to be a little perverted.
What?
That God so loved the world, he let his only son die so that we could be...
Yeah, see, I wouldn't do that because I'm a mere mortal.
Exactly. But imagine, but
having
also,
enough faith. But it, all's well that ends well.
All's well that ends well had to happen.
It didn't end so well, but it ended well enough.
It ended well for us.
For me and you personally.
For humanity.
I mean, for us, it really did end kind of well.
But Mauriac talks about this too in The Anguish and Joy of Christian Life, is that like the race is sort of made the scapegoat for the individual, and that Christ was made the scapegoat for humanity. He was sacrificed so that we could have salvation.
Right.
And I think that's beautiful. And I don't think I don't know. I think that's chatted.
It's peated.
Anyway.
No, that's good. I like that. I wanted to point out the best part of the Lomas article for me was the most troubling feature of the Longhouse that he identifies as not, quote, wokeness or cancel culture. It's that the Longhouse distrusts over ambition. It censures the drive to assert oneself on the world, to strike out for conquest and expansion. Male competition and the hierarchies that drive it are unwelcome. Even constructive expressions of these instincts are deemed toxic, patriarchal, or even racist, like Mark Andreessen toying around with Chat GPT on Twitter. So in the sea of bad faith attacks, I will offer my good faith critique to Lomas.
Yes.
Which I'm frankly so surprised nobody mentioned. The Longhouse is a concept that's basically tied to being online
How so?
Well, you dwell in the longhouse of the mind because you're scrolling the timeline all the time. And the internet and social media particularly turns even men into like persnickety lavender-haired busybodies who like gossip and snitch.
We've said it before. The internet really is for girls and gays.
It is, yeah.
When you are...
The call is coming from inside the longhouse.
That's a good title. That's a good episode. We already used Welcome to the Longhouse, unfortunately. Yeah. That's well received. Yes. Well, someone asked me recently about how I squared my Christian faith with being sort of a particularly ambitious or like willful person. Mm-hmm. And I really was like, I'm on earth to do God's will. Mm-hmm. I don't.
But that's what all like successful, ambitious people would say, which is like my success and ambition is God's plan.
Yeah. God gave me. You don't. No, yeah. I don't. I'm only as talented as I am. Extremely talented.
But that's what I'm saying. That in and of itself, on its face, can be seen as like a rationalization,
or like a kind of what?
Just like you're rationalizing your success and ambition, like handing it over to
my insatiable lust for power.
Right, it's like supernatural powers. But my problem with like the kind of contemporary manifestations of Christianity is that they're literally like hateful of and allergic to ambition. It's not that they have a distrust for it. They hate it. They loathe it. Mm-hmm. They're embarrassed by it. It's a giant cope. You can't begrudge other people for their success and ambition. It's literally just like an envy economy. It's not even a jealousy economy. I wish it was a jealousy economy. Yeah. Because people would be driven to accomplish things. But it's literally a bunch of persnickety bitches griping.
Yeah.
Which is why his like ultimate prescription.
Are you gonna hate from outside the club?
You can't even get in.
You can't even get in.
I love that song.
I know, me too.
What year was that?
Talk about an antichrist. Talk about a devilish dancer.
This is a very Chris Brown centric episode.
That was a long time ago, dude.
Wait, I'm gonna look this up.
2015, I'm gonna guess. That song came out. I was on my way over here. I was thinking about how I wish people in your neighborhood would play Mr. Brightside instead of all this rap music. If the people on your block were blasting Mr. Brightside, I'd be smiling.
Look at me now. 2011.
Oh no. That's
yellow
such a long time ago.
Yellow bottle sipping. Yellow Lamborghini. Yellow top missing. I love that song.
Me too.
Yeah, I never like the racist conservatives on Twitter who are like, rap is like an impoverished and shitty medium. It's not real music. I mean, it's not real music. Well, I don't mean that in a mean way. It's a separate art form. It's like,
it's valid.
Poetry set to beats. It's not like necessarily a musical medium. However, it's one of the pinnacles of African American creativity and ingenuity. I'm sorry,
American. Period. Honestly,
it's America. I mean, I had this conversation. What else
has America? What else has America done?
I mean, I guess jazz, but I ain't got no time for jazz.
Got no time for jazz.
I don't care about jazz. Honestly, I was thinking about how like if jazz disappeared off the face of the earth, I wouldn't miss it. But if rap did, I would be upset.
Yeah.
But it's an African American thing.
It's Mr. Brightside.
It's not, but it's not a black thing. It's not an African thing because if you like go across the world and listen to rap from like France or England Russia or like Senegal, it sucks in comparison to American rap.
So true, queen.
I mean, the French and the British have their bangers.
But they're, you know, it's a shadow of what we've accomplished here in the United States.
As what the Americans achieve.
I agree.
And
I take bigger issue just with the whole like anti-modernist kind of, you know, I'm like, just
but
grow up, you know.
Living in this neighborhood for 4 or 5 years now, I've come around to the fact that I'd rather be hearing Mr. Brightside.
Well, it's one of the best songs ever made.
I should just march myself over to the bodega and be like, hey, fellas, can you put on Mr. Brightside?
You're going to want to get a portable speaker.
They'd probably like it, though, honestly. I think they'd be down with it.
It's a banger, dude. It's a great song.
It is, yeah.
My only critique of Mr. Brightside is I wish it was longer.
I'm doing just fine.
Gotta be down.
That's actually, you know that
because I got a pod.
that meme that was going around that was like, what's
Mr.
like
Podcast.
the best opening lyric.
Coming out
and
of my
I said
cage,
crest me down, but it's clearly Mr. Brightside.
Coming out of my cage and I'm doing just fine.
It's so good. And I love that ambiguously gay but unambiguously beautiful Brandon Flowers with his like under eye eyeliner.
Las Vegas excellence. Some of the best things to come out of Las Vegas is the Killers and me. And so Hoover Dam.
Is Hoover Dam's like at the intersection of Vegas and some other areas.
Arizona.
Yeah, it's like on
Something
another
like that.
Anyway, how long have
we've done an hour and 8 minutes on the Longhouse.
Okay,
babe.
so we should talk about Roald Dahl. But
which ties in well.
It does, yeah, because it's a example of being Longhouse.
They're trying to Longhouse my man Roald Dahl, who I didn't even know was anti-Semitic.
I love that he said,
and
even a stinker like Hitler didn't pick on them for no reason. But anyway, before we move on to that, Lomez, he kind of phoned in the prescription at the end of the essay. Nobody has a solution or an answer for, что делать, what is to be done. Still, we must resist the soft authoritarianism of the Longhouse's weepy moralism. We must not succumb to hysterical pleas for more safety, more consensus, more sensitivity. Ennobling work awaits us, but we must first recognize the Longhouse for what it is and be willing to leave behind its false comforts. We've been recognizing what the Longhouse is.
We've been doing that
since 2018 on this podcast. But like, what does that mean? I mean, to me, it means not being like performatively outraged, but secretly flattered every time you're mentioned in like a Patrick Deneen tweet or a James Pogue article, which is, you know, easier said than done.
I didn't really read. Yeah.
It like means
it buys into the speech policing or whatever. It justifies it by responding to it.
Yeah, it means
it gives it more power.
Resisting turning yourself into a meme. It means keeping your head down and playing the long game. None of us have that ability. Not a single one of us. We're all such slaves to the Longhouse at the end of the day. That's the real problem. The Passage Prize and Rogue, what's it called? Rogue Scholar Press and Asylum Magazine and all these like small presses and publications are trying to get at that. They're trying to harness some discipline and concentration.
Yes.
But I also think it's like a new paradigm and you have to like adapt to it and like roll with it because nobody can escape it, which is bleak.
It's bleaker than I'd like to. I don't know. I think we will. What does it say? We are going to win. It's at least a good, you know, we might not, but that's dream big.
Yeah, true. I
mean,
you
have to believe you're going to win or you'll never win.
That's true.
You can't really, you can't just resign yourself to.
No. I mean, I'm not even resigning myself. I feel like very optimistic and like
We're
positive.
some of the greatest emancipators.
We are. Yeah. We're like Sojourner Truth.
I'm like Abraham Lincoln up in here.
I'm like Rosa Parks. I like to sit
I'm
at the
smoking
back of the
cigs
bus.
on the bus.
Vaping on the bus.
I'm vaping at the Yale Political Union.
But I do think, I guess, the positive, the upside, the silver lining is that every time people melt down about one of these articles, it brings more attention to that camp. And I think anybody who's like sane and not retarded who looks into it will be like, hey, this is like better than the alternative.
Hey, all press is good press.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, back in the day when people kept calling us crypto fascists and like Strasserites and stuff.
Red Browns.
I was like, what?
That one made me depressed because
like,
it made
what?
me think of the like last 2 or 3 days of bleeding.
Yeah, or how you get diarrhea on your first day of your period. Sorry.
Damn.
Uncouth. But yeah, but I was like, huh? I was like, what do y'all mean? And then I was like, oh.
Why do you
I see.
get diarrhea on the first day of your period? That's a very like Lindy man observation.
I know. Thank you.
She's doing a Japanese style bow.
As I sip my yuzu hard seltzer. I think it has to do, this is just my guess, with the swelling of your uterus prior to your period that makes you constipated.
What does Dr. Pete have to? Oh, and then you.
And then there's some, I don't know. It's gross. I'm sorry.
Our bodies are literally longhouses. They're like Grendel's mother mud huts.
Well, this is why I want the red tent back. I
want
want
seclusion.
Yes, I want out of the longhouse. I want women separated from society when they're on their period, so they can have diarrhea and bleed in a hole or whatever, and hang out with their girls.
Yeah, I love hanging out with my girls. It's my new thing. It's my new personality.
I love hanging out with
my girls.
I would fight and die in a war for my girls. You know, and I think it would be nice if we could all, you know,
where my girls at?
We could congregate on our during our menstrual cycles and not have to, you know, participate.
When I was like 7 or 8 years old, my mom sat me down and was like, Anna, you know, the Indian squaws in the Americas used to go into a secluded area when they were menstruating or going into labor, and they would bleed and give birth into the moss.
Beautiful.
And I was like, honestly, work, bitch. She meant it in a positive way.
Yeah, no, I think there's something to that for sure. It's better than like
they use the whole damn animal,
stuffing up your pussy with microplastics and like walking around being a bitch to people.
Has there ever been a more pertinent metaphor for the longhouse than the tampon? Mm-hmm. Mm-mm. Anyway, should we talk about Roald Dahl?
Right. Roald Dahl. They are
longhousing Roald Dahl
posthumously
mean
by publishing a new edition of his works that does away with. I'm not totally. It seems like the old versions will still be available. And I also read in my precursory kind of searches is that like in Europe, countries are not going to, you know.
I thought this was a Fox News psyop when I read about it.
I know.
So I looked it up, and it's strangely enough, like The Guardian, NPR, and some like legitimate liberal outlets were reporting on it. So I guess it's real.
No one likes it, and no one wants it.
So they're not actually censoring Roald Dahl across the board, which would be depressing. They're customizing the censorship for brittle American liberals, which is somehow even more depressing.
Right.
Because if you're
Puffin is releasing a
Puffin,
new
yeah.
edition of Roald Dahl's books that are less problematic.
Yeah, but of course, if you are a parent who's a Roald Dahl reader and fan, you can easily find the old editions.
Right. No, it's that it's really publishing is it's such a fucking racket. I have some more stats to drop. In 2022, only 28, I saw Delicious Tacos tweeting about this, only 28 books sold more than 500,000 copies. Like the
And
vast...
one of them was Emily Ratajkowski's My Body. What date was that?
That might have come out the year prior, but it was definitely one of the best selling books easily.
Mi cuerpo.
But the fact is that publishing it's a racket. It's a totally like hollow. You can't even call it an institution.
No.
And that all they do is churn out material basically nobody wants.
Yeah.
Like altered Roald Dahl books. Do you have an attachment to Roald Dahl?
I do, because I grew up reading him.
Yeah, yeah.
I read like Matilda. I read James and the Giant Peach.
Mm-hmm.
I read The Witches, the Twits.
Yes.
Obviously, I was like, Matilda I could relate to.
Matilda was my fave because I love the mess.
As a lonely and bookish.
Exactly. As a genius.
And precociously intelligent young woman whose reading levels were way above the national norm.
I'm sorry.
But that's the whole point of Matilda, is that she was so intellectually precocious in a way that confounded and defied her retarded parents and her retarded educators. So the references to Rudyard Kipling and Joseph Conrad were meant to drive home this fact.
Yes.
But of course, White Man's Burden
and the
Heart of Darkness, blah, 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 whatever.
Right. What I always enjoyed about Matilda was that the point of it to me was that like adults don't know everything. They don't know anything at all. And I think that's an empowering. Yeah. So the old Matilda said she went on olden day sailing ships with Joseph Conrad. She went to Africa with Ernest Hemingway and to India with Rudyard Kipling. Now says she went to 19th century estates with Jane Austen. She went to Africa with Ernest Hemingway and California with John Steinbeck. Which all just seems so arbitrary and random.
Well, you can't say Joseph Conrad and Rudyard Kipling because they were white male racists. Of course,
wasn't Ernest Hemingway racist?
I mean, I'm sure, but he's for some reason, probably because he was a communist.
Ugh.
And so is Steinbeck.
Here's an amendment from the Witches. Even if she is working as a cashier in a supermarket or typing letters for a businessman, now reads, even if she is working as a top scientist or running a business.
Joseph Conrad, by the way, he's like remarkable.
Yeah. Yes.
That's one artistic influence that I can 100% get behind with BAP. Like, the man was a genius. He saw the world like no other. I think he didn't speak English until he was like 19 or 20 because he's Polish. And then he became like a ship's mate and sailed around the world and did a bunch of crazy shit.
Uh-huh.
There was I'm trying to find this really brilliant thread that I retweeted by my friend Yerk. Sorry, but the entire point is that children notice the ugliness and grotesquerie of certain adults, and the narrative deliberately addresses itself to and affirms that childhood experience in all of its suspicions. It's really disgusting, condescending, in the extreme, in fact, obvious witch behavior to replace this moment of authorial sympathy and solidarity with the worst kind of liberal kitsch platitude, prioritizing adult sensibilities over childhood intuition. That's really the genius of Roald Dahl, is that he speaks to the intensified and extreme and like pure experience of what it feels like to be a child, where you're like literally smaller in scale, but you're more innocent and naive, so you can intuit
You're able to
pathology
perceive
and perversion
that
more. Yeah.
Exactly.
That adults not so much don't perceive, but that they repress and suppress out of like social pressure,
which they now do. Yeah, and yeah, like the rebellious spirit of his books as well, and it. I mean, have these people not read like a fairy tale before? Like, aren't fairy tales famously grim?
They are. They are. They sure are.
And deal with like what is a children's book that is so what? Goodnight Racism.
Yeah, anti-racist.
That's the only
baby.
thing that kids are allowed to read.
Well, this happened earlier with do you know that book series of like horror stories? Was it called what was it called?
Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Yeah, Scary Stories. When they updated the legitimately frightening and uncanny illustrations of like the wolf girl and the girl with the spider coming out of her face to be more like anodyne and like palatable. This is an example of safetyism.
Yes.
Like truly.
Textbook.
But the whole idea, is that he really accurately conveys the experience of being a child through the perspective of a child, in which everything is like overly intense and exaggerated, in part obviously owing to the child's diminutive size and in part owing to the purity of his perception.
Yes.
Which is beautiful.
It's amazing. It's why he's been an enduring literary figure for so long. But wait, did you know he said all this anti-Semitic stuff?
I sure did.
He's made reference to powerful American Jewish bankers and asserted that the U.S. government was utterly dominated by the great Jewish financial institutions over there. Then he said there's a trait in the Jewish character that does provoke animosity. Maybe it's a kind of lack of generosity towards non-Jews. I mean,
this is the John Murray Cudahy ordeal of civility line. Jews provoke expressions of anti-Semitism sometimes, which leads them to double down on their identitarianism and ethno-narcissism because it seems to prove them right, that people hate them because they are the chosen ones. This is a very uncontroversial and obvious point that everyone, including Jews, agrees with. It's not even anti-Semitic. The Hitler thing was
charming, I think.
And hey, he called Hitler a stinker.
Exactly.
He wasn't shilling for Hitler.
He's not a Nazi. Just a good old-fashioned anti-Semite. He also claimed that Israel's 1982 invasion of Lebanon was, quote, hushed up in the newspapers because they are primarily Jewish-owned, and went on to say, I'm certainly anti-Israel, and I've become anti-Semitic in as much as that you get a Jewish person in another country like England strongly supporting Zionism. I think they should see both sides. It's the same old thing. We all know about Jews and the rest of it. There aren't any non-Jewish publishers anywhere. They control the media. Jolly clever.
Jotted down. They're all Dahl's anti-Semitic quotes.
I just think we should really draw attention to these things he said. It's shocking. There aren't any non-Jewish publishers anywhere. They control the media. Jolly clever thing to do. That's why the president of the United States has to sell all his stuff to Israel.
Poor Roald Dahl, if he was alive today, he'd wish the Jews were still in charge.
I know. If he only knew about the Longhouse.
They actually published his work, unedited.
I know.
With all those Joseph Conrad and Rudyard Kipling references in there.
I know. The Jews really should have. Now they've got these women in publishing that aren't doing anyone any favors.
Yeah. It's like some race grifter woman wearing like an Ilhan Omar turban hijab, but who's fully white.
Get the Jays back in publishing. Get them back in Hollywood.
There are certain things that I think Jews are unfairly targeted for. Like, I like their cliquishness and nepotism.
Same.
And I like that they're good with money.
I'm not an anti-Semite. Unlike Roald Dahl, I think that they should be. That's
And I find their moral superiority merely irritating. It's not a deal breaker for me. I can run with it.
yeah, I'm on board.
We like being condescended to.
Our interests are aligned.
Yeah.
For
These
sure.
are fairly like harmless and sensible comments from Roald Dahl. The other thing is Roald Dahl, fun fact, is an incredible adult author of short stories.
I've heard this, but have not read any of his
Incredible
mature works.
The story about how Liszt, the composer, is reincarnated as a cat and becomes the toast of the town. And the cat's owner is so besotted and proud, and her jealous husband kills the cat. The story about the Chesterton being chopped up, the story about the guy who becomes a brain in a vat. There's so many. Like, the man genuinely had such a dark and perverted vision of life, but it was so funny.
Yeah.
He's like the original Bap. How can you begrudge Roald Dahl? The man's a genius. I saw some takes on the timeline that were like, yeah, I was really never into Roald Dahl. He didn't really hit. Are you kidding me? That's like when people say like, oh yeah, like Picasso kind of sucks.
Yeah, I know.
Grow up.
His old paintings were better.
I'm sorry, grow up. What are you talking about?
I have a very vivid memory of I must have been like 4th grade or something, and I was like, I was always interested in the arts, so I happened to know that about Picasso and stuff. And I remember a teacher showing us a slide of like an early Picasso painting and a later Picasso painting, and being like, which one do you think he painted later in his life? And I was like raising my hand. I was like, I fucking know. But this school marm, this bitch, this fucking
Longhouse wench.
This Longhouse wench was like trying to make a point, so she wouldn't let me answer, even though I fucking knew.
Women can be Longhouse too.
Amen, sister. Yeah, and
I spent my whole life being longhoused by educators and administrators.
I don't like it in there, and I'm not.
It's hard to get out.
I remember when I was filing my paperwork to graduate high school a year early because I wanted out of the Longhouse so badly. There being some particularly unpleasant school marms who were like, but you're going to miss the senior trip to Disneyland and stuff. And I was like, bitch, I don't care. I'm out of here.
I'm trying to get fingered by a music major.
I went to summer school. I went to online.
You Mickey Mouse ass bitch.
I'm leaving high school. I don't want to be here. Get me the fuck out of here. I can't stay here another year to go on a senior trip with a bunch of boobs I don't even like.
When people are like, they're just like the mean girls in high school. They're high school. Me pushed into locker high school. I'm like, dude, high school for me was a blur.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to GTFO.
I was definitely not popular. I was mean, certainly. Yeah. But I was not like cool. I was really girls going their own way. I was just trying to do my own thing.
Yeah. Same.
Get out to California where I could be sexually active.
Me too.
And I'm asked my
trying to go to
huge
New York.
Body count.
I was trying to go to New York because I have no imagination. It was the closest big city.
No, I wish I
was
had.
Trying to meet Puerto Rican and Dominican guys and red pill them on Roald Dahl. I was like, yo, you heard what he say about the Jews?
And the Oompa Loompa. Oh yeah, Augustus Gloop. They are no longer calling him fat. They changed it to enormous. Point. The whole point is he a fatty, fat fuck.
But I think that this kind of
Daddy, I want it now. Daddy, I want it now.
I love how the baby says daddy because he says it in a British accent. Daddy.
Oh, that's so cute.
And there's some speculation that children speak in a British accent now kind of like girls on TikTok have Tourette's or multiple personality
Mm-hmm.
because they're all watching Peppa the Pig.
Oh, cute. Fun.
Which could be, but I don't let my kid anywhere near Peppa the Pig. No, it's not.
What are you into, Paw Patrol?
Yeah, it's not a bad show actually, and it's not woke.
It's cute.
It's cute, and I love the illustration. It's just a big old nothing burger. There's no lessons. Like you watch all children's entertainment from like the olden days, and there's something always very sad and cruel about it.
Well, I watched a lot of like 70s Soviet multfilmy.
Ну, погоди.
Yeah, I watched Nu Pogodi and Cheburashka.
It's really funny how
shit.
the wolf in Nu Pogodi is
Smokes
always
cigarettes.
smoking butts.
And the weird sexual tension between him and the rabbit. Yeah, I watched a lot of like Soviet multfilmy because that's what my parents watched, so they wanted to like indoctrinate me. So I was I was also very accustomed to children's programming having very strong messaging. Like the communitarian undercurrent of the pilot episode of Cheburashka.
Yeah.
When they built the little school and stuff, and everywhere to go, and they all come together, and but that was nice for me as a child, you know.
Yeah.
And looked great.
It looked great, yeah. In retrospect, Nu Pogodi was probably a shameless knockoff of Tom and Jerry.
Yeah, it was Soviet Tom and Jerry. Remember that? Do you remember their Christmas episode?
No.
No,
I don't. But I remember when I was a little kid, my mom would be like, well, you know, the Americans, they stole everything from us. They stole Winnie the Pooh. They stole the
Winnie
Little
Pooh, of
Mermaid.
course.
They stole like all, and I was just like, what are you talking about, bitch? Also, wasn't Winnie the Pooh British?
Yeah.
But it's funny
But
that they
Winnie
had
Pooh
that.
is better.
It's better,
cuter,
yeah.
vocal fry.
Mhm.
I have a lot of very fond memories of Soviet cartoons, actually.
And then there was what's the famous Yuri Norstein one?
Ooh, not Hedgehog
Like
in the Fog.
yeah, Hedgehog in the Fog, Ежик в тумане, which is sad, right? It teaches some very adult
very
life
sad.
lessons, and
He encounters the horse on his way to meet his friend.
and it's like surreal and psychedelic. It's kind of better than De Chirico, no offense.
Yes.
And I remember even being like a kid in American school and reading this book called Where the Red Fern Grows, which is about a boy and his two dogs, and they're going coon hunting, and one of the dogs is like vivisected by a mountain lion and the other dog dies of heartbreak. I remember bawling for days.
I haven't read this one.
It was crazy. It was assigned reading in elementary school. There was also I'm gonna look it up because I want to get the title right. What I'll edit.
There's that.
Hello, kids.
Listening to literal children's music.
There's
a song about Africa that I really liked as a kid.
Yeah.
Was
it from Mowgli?
I don't even remember.
No,
I had like
maybe
a
not.
tape of like Russian children's music that I would also listen to.
There was a lot of
that I
like
enjoyed.
unintentionally, like naively racist stuff. There was a book that I read. I think it was called Tituba, about a black slave who is like accused of evil and sorcery, and her companion is a cat. And I remember vividly how she throws water at the cat because she wants it to flee so it's not killed.
Right.
And I remember like bawling my eyes out at that because this woman's life was ruined and she was forced to part with her closest companion. Like those are the kind of books we read like growing up.
And of course, Carlson, который живет на крыше.
Yeah, and Tucker
Carlson, который живет
живет на Фоксе.
на Фоксе. Is this it?
Oh yeah, I know this song.
Something about eating bananas. I don't know what that song's about. It's a banger too. Chunga. It's called Chunga Changa.
Chuga
Chunga Changa.
Yeah. But yeah, of course, like the conservative outrage over Roald Dahl.
I think it's cross the spectrum. Like libs, no one's happy about it.
No one's happy, but it's not like conservative children are going to be reading. Conservative children, sorry, this is trans children. They don't exist. Children of conservative parents will not be reading the
children of conservative experience.
Yes, will not be reading the updated editions of Roald Dahl because they don't read at all.
Yeah, they don't know how.
No, somebody tried to sun me because I said like kids aren't reading at all, which is a joke, and they were like, kids actually are reading more than ever, but adults are not, which I maybe.
Okay.
Sure.
Thanks, school marm. Thanks for the fact check. Compliance officer. What are you, some kind of compliance officer?
This plays into the whole idea of like quote national divorce, which we don't have to get into. It's just like society is going to become more polarized.
Yeah.
Certain people will read and watch certain things, and certain other people will read and watch other things.
Yeah. And perhaps this is natural.
Yeah, it's, you argued pro polarization at Yale.
I did. Yeah.
Maybe it could yield something cool.
Well, the thrust of my argument really was that as our society, not to talk about my amazing, as things become increasingly like longhoused, safety ties, longhoused, whatever, that they become inconsequential, and that polarization is good just because consequences follow.
Right. One hopes the Roald Dahl thing probably sorry, I'm like so drunk. I just like gather my thoughts. I think I forgot.
Roald Dahl. Consequences.
Something about consequences.
Something about polarization. Conservative kids.
Oh yeah, it's like kind of like the Longhouse has to create jobs for surplus women. It has to also create activities for those surplus women to do, such as like censoring historic authors deemed problematic.
Right.
Like
graphic designing.
Right. I don't think that there's even, I think like the ideological objection to his like racism and anti-Semitism is almost like incidental to the fact that it's like an activity for them to do. Like to comb through all his books and find all the instances of wrongthink and purge them. Netflix
apparently acquired the rights to definitely Matilda and maybe the rest of his
oeuvre. There's already a Matilda movie.
They're making another one
with Mara Wilson, who's like a noted libtard on Twitter.
Yeah. Hates Nick Mullen famously.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. It'd be funny if Adam married Chelsea Clinton and Nick married Mara Wilson.
I forget.
You said Netflix, excuse me.
Oh, yeah.
I love what the vape does to my voice. It automatically like hermetizes. Netflix acquired the rights to Matilda.
They're making like a Matilda musical for Netflix or something, and that people are speculating that has something to do with the recent blah blah. But I'm not sure. I didn't look into it too.
They're making Matilda black.
They probably will, dude.
She's like, I read Malcolm X and W.E.B. Du Bois.
Well, they did the Wednesday Addams spinoff on Netflix.
Did you watch that?
Of course not. Dude.
I don't know.
Come on. And some people took umbrage with her being Hispanic, but of course, Gomez Adams is Latinx, so
Lomas Adams.
Gomez Adams. He's a passionate Latin lover archetype.
Yeah.
So if
and Morticia is also some kind of mad.
Morticia's something
At best.
I love the Adams family.
Me too.
I really do.
I thought that
That's
they were
when
like
we'll
such
really-
a hot couple.
When we really hit rock bottom is when they make the Adams family less macabre.
I know.
I have a prophetic vision of them being like de-gothifying the Adams family.
De-gothed, but it's like Mia Goth playing Morticia. I remember thinking like Morticia Adams, played by Angelica Houston, was like the most beautiful woman when I was a kid.
Phenomenal.
And like in retrospect, I think she was supposed to be like frightening and uncanny.
I like the original Morticia myself.
Yeah, she was good. I like Elvira, who was kind of a Morticia-like character, but with huge fake tits.
Huge fake tits. The same actress who plays Morticia on the original Addams Family show plays her cousin Ophelia, who's blonde, who I also really like.
They're gonna make Pugsley skinny.
Yeah. They're going to make them not so...
And Fester will be trans. He'll be non-binary. So our weird, they, them, don't call him our uncle. This could actually be good.
This is a good idea.
We could workshop it.
We could... Netflix hit us up. We've got a great idea.
Just Mia Farrow and her mixed brood in the Addams Family.
What's more macabre than that? We could, shall we?
Yeah, we can wrap it up. Pick up the paperback of The Passage Prize. Stock up on the old editions of Roald Dahl.
Nietzsche and Christianity from
Another
Red
good one.
Scholar Press. Oh, okay.
We'll
See you next time.